I've gotten a lot of questions about what is a control. So, in order to answer that, we're going to come up with a fake experiment that we're doing first before we talk about one of our real ones. So, here's our fake experiment. We're going to test the effects of the smart drug, quote unquote, a pill to make you really, really smart. Okay, so the test that we'll do is we'll give 1,000 people the drug, right, the smart drug, and then we'll give them a test, right? We'll give them a multiple choice 100 question test and we'll see how they do. Now, the problem is we don't know what we're comparing this against. We don't know what it started out as. So, if we give them the drug and they all get, an average of an 87, that's good. An 87 average is pretty good, right? But who knows what they would have gotten before if they hadn't taken the drug. Maybe the average, if they hadn't taken the drug, would have been an 87 anyways. So do we really know if the drug is working? Right? Not really. So how do we make this test better? Well, the new and improved test is going to have two trials. Okay? Sorry, this is getting moved around. New and improved test is going to have two trials. Trial 1. This test is going to have 1,000 people, no drug. Trial 2 will have 1,000 people with the drug. So we've got 1,000 people in each group because 1,000 people is a lot of people, and we figure that's pretty representative of the population. One group does not take the drug, the other group does take the drug, and then we can compare their test results. So let's say this group ends up with an 80% average, and this group ends up with the 87% average. Now we know that the drug actually works. It can take an 80 and make it into an 87. It improves the average test score by 7%. But the only reason we knew that that worked is because we had this group here. We had a group that we could compare against. This is a group to compare against. Another word for that is it gives us a baseline, right? And if it gives us a baseline, that's another way of saying we now have a standard, the norm, like normal, to compare against. What we call this group is, you guessed it, the control group. Okay? So now let's go further down here, and if we're talking about a control group, and let's say we're talking about the global warming lab, where that first test that we did, where we had the cup, the tin foil underneath it, and no saran wrap. So you've got the cup, you've got tin foil, and you've got no saran wrap. That's our control for that lab. Now we have to ask ourselves, why is that the control for this lab? Well, we need the cup, because that, remember, is Earth. And then tin foil, that's because we're making a high albedo surface. And that's basically a pre-human surface, right? That's a surface that hasn't been messed up and hasn't been changed by humans. It's a highly reflective surface like the snow that isn't messed up, isn't changed to pavement or buildings or anything like that. It's just highly reflective. It can be viewed as the normal, right? And then there's no saran wrap, which takes away, that means there is no atmosphere. Now that's interesting because the Earth does have an atmosphere. So why would we call this our control group? What are we really trying to test then if we're trying to test an environment that does not have an atmosphere? Well, what that's saying is we want to see what the effect of putting the atmosphere on and around Earth is. If we're testing without an atmosphere, meaning without saran wrap, we're seeing, first of all, what happens when there is no atmosphere. So if we went to a planet that had a very, very thin atmosphere, almost no atmosphere, what would that planet's temperatures be like with the sun shining down on it, right? Our little flashlight. And then if we add an atmosphere, we add the saran wrap, now we're adding a variable and we're testing something. We're seeing what the effect is of adding that atmosphere, right? So test number 1 was the cup, the tin foil, and the saran wrap. Because we still have Earth, we still have a pre-human, highly reflective surface, but now we've got the saran wrap, which is our atmosphere. So now we're saying, what's the effect of just having the atmosphere? Does having the atmosphere make things warmer? Does it make things colder? Or does it not change it? In test 2, we're changing things even further, right? We've got our cup, we've got the black paper, and we've still got the saran wrap or the atmosphere. So now we've changed another thing, and rather than having the pre-human high albedo surface, we've got a surface that has been changed and altered by humans, and we're looking at pavement and we're looking at buildings. So now we're testing something. And obviously there was test number 3 and test number 4, but because we have this original one right here, because we have this test where it was a pre-human surface with Earth but no atmosphere, we can compare each of these 1 through 4 tests against the control. And that's the whole point, is we have a baseline, we have the norm, giving you lots of words that you could use in your discussion section. We've got a baseline to compare tests 1 through 4 against because we've got this control. All right, so I hope this helps you out. Please send me an email if you've got any more questions about what a control is or why we used a control or that kind of thing. Good luck.